This is Jeremy Holmes with the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission and Program Director for Ride Solutions, and this is a video response to Stuart Mease's recent Connecting People in the R&R YouTube post. And rather than post things in the comments, I thought it was appropriate to use the medium and go ahead and do this via video. Regarding Stuart's comments about encouraging regionalism in the area between Roanoke and New River Valley, he's absolutely right that having people live in one region and work in the other is a key part of improving regionalism. Part of the challenge with that right now is that frankly flies in the face of recent trends. Due to a number of reasons, there has been an increasing emphasis on new urbanism, density development in existing metropolitan areas, and a general bias against long commute times and contraction of suburban and ex-urban development. And you've seen that in the increasing residents in downtown Roanoke, in particular, and probably also in the retail development in the Christiansburg, Blacksburg area. Those couple of the symptoms of that. Some of this is probably due to increasing energy expenses, and particularly gas prices. That's been some of the big drivers in recent years, and particularly this year, where we saw gas go astronomical compared to the last couple of years. However, what we've actually seen since then is some pretty fundamental differences or fundamental changes in overall lifestyle habits, even in the past few months of gas prices have collapsed. People have not returned to these previous long commute habits. And there's a couple of reasons. Some of it has to do with skepticism that gas is going to remain low. Some of it has to do with people having now developed some ingrained habits that they're not willing to go back on. Overall softening of the economy has people looking at every opportunity to cut money or cut expenses. But even broader green trends have got folks thinking about their habits, their lifestyle, how that impacts the environment, and obviously driving and long commute times are a significant contributor. So there's an increasing bias against any kind of long commute. So to the extent that regionalism is going to rely on these work-home in the two regions relationships, the key component of connecting those disparate origins and destinations is probably going to be public transit. And to that extent, Stuart's comments about the SmartWay are absolutely spot on. The SmartWay has been enormously successful. We've seen ridership has increased significantly this year, to the extent that they will be adding, it looks like, additional bus service, but plans for expanding that service even more are going to be key. Not just in terms of adding the number of buses and the number of trips being made to meet the demand, but also looking at expanding potential destinations. For example, potential service to Radford might be necessary at other stops along the Christiansburg-Blacksburg corridor, or within Roanoke, connecting to other transit service, existing Valley Metro service, for example. Other commute options, things like van pools. Virginia Tech has several vans in a van pool already, but looking at some of the major employers to institute van pool programs that make it easier to get up and down 81 would be another key component. A possibility of passenger rail, I think, would do a lot. One of the successes for the SmartWay bus is actually that connection between the New River Valley and the Roanoke Regional Airport. So having some sort of passenger rail service, whether that's in Roanoke and transit is the connection between New River Valley and Roanoke, or passenger rail that extends down to the New River Valley or farther southwest, but that provides a very easy, affordable connection to DC, would certainly do a lot to connect the two regions. but more than simply just adding additional capacity, there's going to have to be a buy-in and incentives offered from regional employers to get employees on that bus. If someone in New River wants their employer or their employee to live in Roanoke and work in New River, just saying that the bus is there is probably not enough. They're going to have to make sure some basic things like the work schedule is flexible enough to meet transit schedules. I know that's not necessarily always the case for employers in the Corporate Research Center, and one of the benefits of the proposed Smart Way route is that it better fits with existing work schedules. But there are things like IRS tax-deferred benefits that that employers can either subsidize or simply earmark for or have taken out of employees' paychecks, that adds a little bit of incentive to using the bus and makes it very convenient. Selling bus passes out of a human resources office. There's some very basic things like that that can do a lot to just bring attention to the transit services there, make it easy, affordable, and desirable to use transit, and that will obviously create a cycle that'll create additional demand, therefore justifying additional funding for the expansion of service. Improvements to 81 are also a key part. I think one of the reasons that public transit in the Smart Way is so desirable is the general perception of a lack of safety traveling up and down 81. A big challenge that is going to be coming up is the Elliston Intermodal site, though on the whole that site is going to reduce truck traffic along the Heartland corridor. The fact of the matter is it will probably increase local truck traffic along 220, 581, 81 possibly, or 81 very likely, 581, 220 possibly. So there will be more trucks going up and down 81 between Roanoke and the New River Valley. So that's just going to put additional emphasis on needing that public transit there, because the perception of safety is only going to decrease as those trucks increase, unless there is infrastructure like truck-only lanes put in, or some sort of special accommodation for single occupancy vehicle drivers. That will be a challenge. The smart road connection should be a priority, I think. Unfortunately, in the transportation funding environment in Virginia right now, that's probably low on the statewide priorities, unless there was some thought to doing something like making that a toll road that might be able to create some additional funding on the road itself to expand or pay for that expansion. If that's something that's important, a good thing to do is just get involved with the VDOT, get involved in many of the regional meetings at the metropolitan planning organizations, both in Roanoke and the New River Valley, and make your voice heard, that's something you think is important, and particularly if you might support some alternative funding options like toll roads or some other method, to make sure that you make that clear and that is something you support. Well, that's my thoughts for now. I look forward to any other comments or responses.